Open houses can be an incredibly valuable resource to create a huge business. So, in this next section, I'm going to open up our playbook and how we do open houses at a super high level. So, as always, if you like the video, you like the content, please subscribe, like the channel. I'm going to be working on bringing tons of value. I've got another great video coming after this. So, as always, if you need anything, message me, shoot me a text, email me. I'm always here to help your business. Cheers and enjoy the material.
Who does open houses?
You got one today.
You got one today?
Yeah, buddy.
Sweet. I got one Saturday. Love it. And we're just going to go through, this is kind of a model that I didn't personally come up with this. Chris Suarez came up with this. So it's a really great model that we use and implement at a high level. So kind of share with you is when we look at the building out of our plans, we look at the 2 out of 3 buyers hire the first agent they meet with. Did you know that? 2 out of 3 buyers hire the first agent they meet with. 80% of open house guests are unrepresented. That may change, but for the most part, if you think about it, I actually got a question last night where my seller said, hey, I used to sell new construction years ago. Do open houses still work? I said, that's a good question. Actually, 10 years ago, I probably would have told you no, not that much. However, I think with the internet and that everyone starts their search, you'd be actually surprised at how many people skip the agent, go to the open houses, or they don't want to, quote, I've heard so many times, bother their agent, right? So a lot of numbers there. And then 53% of open house guests will hire the first agent they meet and are unrepresented, right? So if you take those two numbers, average them out, then 53% of all open house guests will hire the first agent they meet and they're unrepresented. So every open house lead is a Met. Everyone is either an immediate buyer or seller, a future buyer or seller. You get to interview for a job every single week. You establish the law of reciprocity. You're building your database and you are meeting people where they are. Open houses are the only place that you actually have people come to you. I mean, you got those crappy call-in or lead transfer programs and systems, but it's literally the only place where someone can come in and talk to you, right? One of the things that I'm really passionate about is this. Is one thing I'd ask myself here is that number 3 is how do you set up, how do you prepare for open houses? Because literally an open house, and I'm not good, I used to do it all the time. I'd wake up, it's freaking, I have an open house at noon. This one I used to party, I'd be hammered the night before, right? Get up at like 10:45 and I'm like, damn, okay. Let me get my bearings and I'm out the door, get there, starts at noon, I'm there at like, I gotta get some food on the way in, right? I get there about 11:45 and I'm setting out signs and I'm at the door at 12, right? No preparation, no setup. And then all of a sudden you're expecting to get a massive connection with these people. So one thing I would say with the open houses is it's your resume, really, if you think about it. It's your resume. What are people going to get when they work with you? You're telling them about at your open house, whether it's a buyer. A lot of sellers actually go around, they interview open house people. And I visit 10 to 15 open houses every single week in doing, adding partners for our team. Just to see, meet people, but also it's interesting to see who's out there, right? And the level of open houses that I see are often, I'd say, subpar, right? So the coolest thing about this is if you do it at a high level, you stand out automatically. Like if you do a high level open house, put out a ton of signs, have your setup at your open, dialed in, know everything about the neighborhood, where the closest park is, what schools they go to, is it SMUD, PG&E, what are the ages of the roof, HVAC, everything in there, you are gonna outshine 98% of every other open house. So keep that in mind too, because remember too is people are going to multiple open houses, right? They're going 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Quick pause. They are testing the fire alarm.
Thank
so
you,
I
Amy.
just want to let everybody know ahead of time that it is not real. Stay seated. Okay.
Perfect. So how do you compare, right? Who here farms? Anybody farm? You farm? Kind of?
Should do more.
Should do more. Well, a good way to farm is open houses, right? And one thing is targeting specific neighborhoods. So picking open houses, if it's not your listing, pick out somewhere at a neighborhood that you want to be in, right? I was talking with Steven yesterday, and a really good strategy for connecting with your farm through the open house process is pick a charity food bank and set up bins at your open house. And when you call neighbors to invite them to your open, let them also know that, hey, by the way, we're collecting for the Sacramento Food Bank. If you have any perishables that aren't expired, please come drop them off. Because then you get neighbors that everyone wants to do good, right? They want to come and do good, and then you get neighbors that are going to come, drop the things off, and then they see you're doing good, and you connect with them, right? So really good strategy there. Target traffic patterns. All right. Days and times, and target and expect results. So target traffic patterns. And that's pretty simple. If you go and try and do an open house in Placerville, deep in Placerville, or I try and get only 2 to 3 turns per open, meaning that someone to get to my open, they turn off the main street and there's only 2 more that they have to go to. If you get too deep in a neighborhood, if you don't have enough signs to put out, or you're not putting them out, or even if you are, sometimes they get lost. Days and times. This is an interesting one. Who does open houses during the week? You have? Okay. What about weekends? Oh yeah, right. That's the bread and butter. One thing that I've actually seen a lot of is I see people that will do them when it's convenient for them versus when you're going to get the best result, right? Like, my goal is to go into an open house and set an appointment with a potential buyer that day for that day or the next day. So I want the most people that are going to come through my open. Now, weekdays, it's interesting because not a lot of agents do them on weekdays, right? So you could have a killer open house on a weekday. We've had like 12 people come through on a Thursday. 1, because there was nobody else doing them, and 2, it was a newer listing, right? So what the challenge becomes is, are the people that are coming through, are they just the neighbors, or are they potential the open house people? So my suggestion on the days and times is I've always found that after or 1 o'clock or later on Sundays, because church, and I've also found on Saturdays pretty well from 10 to say 4 o'clock, because that, and especially when it starts getting nicer, I tend to do it a little earlier so people can come in, then they can go enjoy their day. And then an expected result. Who has, what's your...
close to a church, I always like to put an extra few open house signs next to the parking lot there.
100%. If you're doing it during a weekday, if you do have to do one and you want to put yourself in front of opportunity, you're doing it the weekday, go do one by a school. Throw out a bunch of school signs, do it at like 3 o'clock. Who knows, maybe you get a couple neighbors.
I did one downtown or midtown on I think it was a Thursday night, and it was near 16th Street, and everyone that came in were all just people walking around. So no one found it on Zillow or anything like that. They were just people walking around. I think I had a total of like 10 or 15 people come through.
That's solid.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how I can do like a breakfast burrito stand in front of mine and post it up across from a bar at like midnight-ish.
Yeah.
Right? And make money, meet a bunch of new people. Right?
Sausages.
That's it, right? Like those little hot dog stands.
Yep.
Target and expected result. This is probably one of the biggest things I see challenges with is people go into the open houses and they don't really have an expected result for themselves. And I think mindset's probably one of the biggest things in the open houses, which is going to be, I want to go to have an open house to get an appointment. I want to meet someone to get an appointment or show them houses after my open house, right? And the biggest thing is when we go in, some people, either I know I should be doing them, so I'm going to do the open and maybe I run into people. But your conversations change when you actually have an expected result there. You're going to set the appointment. I'm working to set the appointment. How are you trying to set the appointment? Things like that. And we'll get into some scripts here too. Prospect. Circle prospect. Anybody do circle prospect here on their opens? Good job. High five. Yeah. Circle prospect around your opens. Door knocking. 50 doors, right? If you want to start smaller, that's okay. Just do 5, 5, and 10. Then start expanding it as you get more comfortable. What's your script for door knocking? It's going to be the same thing as circle prospecting. Since you're already circles prospecting.
So with the circle I've been doing it after the open house, not before. That's what Jeremy, like, I just started. It's new for me. So I generally just say, hi, I'm Lindsay calling from Keller Williams Imagine Real Estate. I'm so new to this. I say something like, we currently have a listing in your neighborhood, and I was curious if you would like a market analysis so that you can see what the value is of your property. Would I be able to possibly come over and meet you, type of thing? And I have not had any success with it yet, but I am pretty new to it. I've only had Vortex for a couple weeks, so I'm still learning, but that's kind of where I started.
Yeah. Hey, I'll say this: you're doing good activities and getting into good habits.
Trying.
A couple things. The way I see an open house is, and I see neighbors, is the reason we're trying to contact them is want more listings, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I always like to invite them to the open, ahead of the open, but I'll also ask them, I'll say, hey, this is Jake with the DaRosa Real Estate Team. Hey, I was giving you a call. We just listed a house down the street, and we promised the sellers, Bob and Linda, right? Take their name.
Yeah.
Promise Bob and Linda, because it makes personal. They know who Bob and Linda is, right? That we call the neighborhood and let them know.
That's a good.
All right. Curious, about 15% of the time we find that neighbors know buyers that can move into the area. Who might you know that's thought about moving into the neighborhood? Oh, for Bob and Linda? Nobody. Oh, well, we'll think about it, right? Whatever. Then they say no. Awesome. What about yourself? If you were to move, when might that be? And listen to them. 2 years, 3 years, and going out of the box. Because then you continue through the questioning process. If they say 2 years, I'm like, my ears perk up. I'm like, okay, so they're close. Tell me about that. 2 years, I go into motivation. If you were to sell your house here, are you moving out of the state like everyone else? Or is it going to be a local move? It's going to be a local move. Right on. Where are you going? Why? What? How? Right? Try to find out why they're moving, and then you get into, once you build enough rapport, then you earn the opportunity to ask them, well, what's important to you about 2 years? Sometimes they think the market's terrible. Not many people remember, too, is if you're talking to homeowners, they're seeing the news, right? Which news are they seeing most of the time? National, right? They subscribe to Yahoo, CNN. Well, what's our market here? If someone's wanting to sell, it's actually a really good market to sell right now because inventory is super low, right? So, door knocking, call, email, text, hit your sphere up, right? Hey, we're doing an open house here, and I'll give you a tool that's super affordable, and it has an impact on your message, called Loom, Loom, Loom. It's very much like BombBomb. How you can even buy a subscription. They have a creator account, which I think is like $16 a month, and with that you get 25 creator live accounts, which allows you to record up to 25 videos in your system at a time, so people could share it. I mean, you have plenty of room. Hit up your social media, right? Go on video on social media. I think that's a big one too, that not enough people take advantage of, is they put that picture up, open house, this and that. Put your big face on it. A lot of people aren't comfortable with it. I always say I have a face for radio. So, but I still go on there, right? I still go on there.
Yeah, and research shows that if the agent's face is on there, they're going to have more clicks.
You know what's huge right now is green screen. So if I was doing it, like I'll probably do one this week, or actually I'll do one when I go back to the office. Pull up my listing for Tele, when I'm having an open house, I'll put it in a green screen. Hey, we're doing an open house right here, and I create a reel. It'll probably get 5,000 to 6,000 hits.
Love it.
There you go. Right. What should you say on the phone? We know that because you already live in the neighborhood, you probably love it, and you may know people that want to live here too. Do you know anyone that might be interested in moving here? So that's your prospecting script. We have a lot of interest in the home already, and I've been asked to let some other buyers know if other homes come on the market, have you thought about selling in the near future? What should you say to the door? Pretty much the same thing. I'm holding an open house just down the street, and I promise your neighbor I'd personally invite you to come take a look at the house. I found that people that live in the neighborhood love it here or live here because they love it. So one thing with me is you always notice is this is what we call a closed-end question. I never ask it. My question is, who do you know, friends, family, or coworkers that might love to live in the neighborhood as well? Right? What should you say to your spirit? What to reach out? I mean, it's all the same thing, right? Just repurpose. So you prospect around your open house. Perform at your open house. So what do you guys say when you have an open house? What's your first conversation to a potential, take that away. What's your first conversation to a potential buyer?
I like to ask them how they found the open house. How'd you find us today?
Yeah. Why do you do that?
Most of the time they say the signs,
Okay.
and then I let them know that's extremely inefficient. And I have an app that will show them all of the open houses around them using their GPS. And that usually gets me their phone number within the first few minutes, and then I don't have to worry about it the rest of the open house. I can just let them, I can just leave them alone, and I'll follow up with them from there.
Okay. What about you?
I generally ask how their day's going because that brings up conversation, and then I can ask, within the conversation if they're looking for themselves or just for fun, and they kind of naturally tell me if they're a neighbor just browsing. So that's kind of what I do, just to start.
Just ask them what brought them in. And then I'll usually find something to cool hat, cool shoes, cool jacket, whatever.
Yeah.
Compliment them, and then sort of just leave it there. Let them. I say, hey, I'm not going to hover. Check out the house. I'll be here. Catch you on the way out.
Yeah.
Hey Jake.
Go ahead.
So this weekend, my wife and I, there's a house down the street. We genuinely were interested in the house and downsizing. It's a one-story, we're in a two-story. So I said, yeah, let's go in there. And we walked in, nice woman. And she didn't, we told her we were neighbors. We told her we were interested in this house. She didn't ask us one question, say anything. She said goodbye as we left out the door. She didn't say one thing to
I'd
us.
love to talk to you about how
Yeah.
I'm selling it.
All of you would. You know what
I'm
I
up
mean?
here. That was my next question.
Hey, sometimes you gotta take a chance.
I listened though first. See, I'm trying to understand him, and then I was going to ask him.
It was, for me, being around all of you, it just blew me away.
Yeah, there's a lot.
She's doing them a disservice.
But I have found if you just ask for the business,
Yeah.
that's all you got to do. You don't got to make a weird conversation out of it. The last 5 minutes, just ask them. I want to earn your business. How are you finding houses? How are you looking at houses?
Yeah, right. I love that.
So one of the things that we do is the script that we use is typically twofold. Is like Amy did. Is hey, how'd you find the house today? Or was it online, or did you see our signs? Because what's that tell you? It tells you if they're a buyer or they live in the neighborhood, right? It tells you who to focus on, right? The other way I do it, my favorite, is hey, you know what? People come into my open house for one of two reasons: either looking to buy a house or curious what their home's worth. What would you say the case is for you, right? Either way, ask them something to find out what type of person they are, because that's going to determine your conversation. That'll determine if I go down what we call LP Mama, which is location, price, motivation, agency, mortgage, appointment, right? And the next question I would ask is, they tell me they found online, is awesome. Gosh, if I'm holding a house in Fair Oaks, is Fair Oaks specifically the area you're kind of looking in, or are you open to other areas as well? And I go through my conversation. A couple of strategies I do use at open houses is I find two really unique things about a house. You can find unique things in the smallest of homes, right? I don't know if you can pretend the closet's a big deal. It doesnn't matter, right? And what I'll do is I will simply say, hey, you know what? Come with me real quick. I want to make sure you don't miss these two things. And I'm going to walk with them, and I'm going to show them the two things, but as I'm walking with them, I'm building rapport with them and having conversation with them, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing I do is I have a list of similar homes. I go into Metro Lists, I send it to myself, I have a link, and what I say is, at the end, I say, how'd you like the house? it was this or that. Cool. Well, hey, let me text you a list of 4 other homes that are actually very similar to this house. What's the best phone number for you? And I just look at my phone, right? Don't even look at it anymore. And they tell me, because everyone's cool with text, right? So you text them, and then I say, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to go preview these homes because I want to know more about this area or something. Would you like to join me? I'm going to go see them at the end of my open house, 4 o'clock. So then you get to come go look at homes with you, and then you can start having conversation, right?
I really like that you're already going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm already going to preview them.
Come with me.
Hey, you want to join me? I'm going to be there anyway.
Yeah.
If out shopping, how have you been getting into homes during your search? It's a good way to ask for agency, right? Hey, how have you been seeing homes? Online, open houses, or what street do you live on? Are you familiar with property values in the immediate area? Right? Add value to their situations. Have you been getting into homes during your search? What was your name? Hopefully that's that. What neighborhood you live in? What's a good email address I can send that to? What's your cell phone? Can I text you in case it bounces back? Right? So it's some different questions that we have. This is probably what I would say I see the biggest challenge for a lot of agents is your post open house activity. Why do you think I say that?
You feel like the work's already done, and you're like, oh, they're gonna call me. So wait for them to call me now.
My issue previously was that I couldn't read people's handwriting when they were actually just writing, signing in. And so now we have YLOPO, and so we use open house registration online. I get pretty much 100% of people to actually sign it online.
That's why I started doing it the way I do it, because open house sheets, I put the wrong number.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you ask for my number and I have to write it down, you get the wrong number.
Totally. But people are more responsive to digital for some reason. And they're like, yeah, absolutely, I will fill that in online. I'm like, cool. Like, great response. And then it captures the lead. And then I have it in my system and I follow up right after.
One of the best things you can do too is actually, I like to have little prizes, like hey, sign up for the Starbucks, or hey, leave your name for off-market properties, whatever that looks like. What was interesting is I did an open house and I prospected around this circle prospect. I said, yeah, I want to sell my house. I don't want to go to market. If you have a buyer, bring them. I'm like, sweet. I just did an open house, same neighborhood, same price point, boom. So I start quoting through my list. Wrong number. I'm like, shit. Well, that day I happened to be giving away a Starbucks gift card. I'm like, let me look at this. Pull it out. Same name, right number. I started calling Aaron, and I'm like, hey, I got another open, are you interested? So I ended up putting an $800,000 double-end deal together because of my Starbucks card before.
Love it.
It was pretty well.
Probably a $5 card.
I don't think I ever gave it to him, but I helped him buy a house.
Yes, that's so funny.
I don't know, that's so weird too. So here's the thing, is your lead follow-up intensity should be high enough. Okay, what I see a ton of times is, my thought is this, is when I think of an open house, first thing I'm thinking is I'm competing against probably 10 to 15 other realtors that you're out visiting their open house. So whoever's gonna be able to A, connect with them the best, close and set the appointment the best, or follow-up intensity is better, they're gonna get that client. That's my thoughts. That's how I look at every open house. And what's interesting is, I don't know if it's just me or if you've had an open house and you felt you really connected, and then you follow up with them on Monday and they just ghost you. Have you ever had that happen? Yeah? Me? Okay, cool. I love this where it says I did a little digging when I got back to the office and found several properties in the neighborhood where we met that match your criteria. We could get in tomorrow around 4 if that works for you. Hit them up the day after your open house. One thing I used to do before like all the video stuff was crazy, or everyone was working on videos, I actually learned it from someone, I forget who it was. It was like I went to a KW thing. I would take my phone and I'd go into the kitchen and I'd film a video. I'd say, hey, thank you so much for coming to my open house today. I really appreciated it. I know you had a lot of things to do with your time, yet my contact info, this is my phone, I'll shoot you my email, I'll be following up with you, right, boom. And I'd send it to each of the open house attendees as soon as I shut down the shop, and then I'd follow up with them. But this one I actually liked a lot better. And then even with like a loon, you can even do that. Hey, I went back to the office. So it's like you're giving them value by going back and looking for it. I don't know that you didn't go to the office. I didn't know that your office is your car. Adding categories all your needs in your database. Call every lead with a phone number. Set a plan to continue up to follow up with them. What's your follow-up cadence? Anybody? Who has a good follow-up cadence? Or wants to share one?
Pretty much every day for the first week. And then I think there was a little rule of thumb where it's like 3 times a day for the first 3 days, and then 5 times over the next 5 days, and then something after that. It's like basically like hit them hard in the beginning, see if they're going to convert, and if not, then you just drip on them forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got to hit them up every day. My business partner came up with, it's called the 10 Days of Pain. That's what he called it. I'd like to change that name, but it's 10 days, right? Because you followed up so much. You followed up so much that there was sometimes some pain with it, right? However, because statistics show that when someone starts actually seriously looking, they will find their realtor within the first 14 days. So my suggestion would be every single day that you call that person, right? Call the day of, shoot them a text, shoot them that text, whatever that looks like. Set the appointment though, get the appointment, get them to meet with you. Here, you want to motivate a buyer? Who has buyers that are kind of unmotivated right now? Yeah? How do you motivate a buyer?
Kick in the butt.
Get them to a house.
Get them excited.
A property that
Yeah.
they're excited about.
So I would use the same script that was previous, where it says, if you have some unmotivated buyers, but maybe they're qualified. Hey, this is Jake. I'm actually going out to 123 Main Street this afternoon. Want to see if you want to find a vacant home. Hey, want to see if you want to tag along and check this house out with me.
It's actually the best way to get, the shortest way also to get to a listing is by selling them on what's going to be next for them. And then the listing's like an afterthought. They don't even think about hiring anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Get them excited about what's next.
You got to prepare, prospect, perform, and post activity. The 4 Ps of an open house. Prepare, prospect, perform, and post activity. There's a lot of stuff I didn't go into. Did you know that, like, if you use the model, that it's 2 nurtures from every open house? Solid nurtures. So you may have 7 or 8 come in if you get 2 really good nurtures. And then from every four nurtures, you should be able to set an appointment. And from every 2 appointments, you should be able to close a deal. So if you're doing 2 opens a weekend, right? Every 2 opens is a transaction, so you're building a 24 unit per year business just by doing open houses, if you do it right. Right? What questions do you have about open houses?
Love this.
I've got a really
Great point.
easy and not so easy one.
Go for it.
Gated communities.
Go.
Just put a sign out by the gate. Do you, if it, now also if it's your listing or not your listing, that always plays a role, but in general, how you putting the code out there?
What I do is I have a text service. Ours is quickly. So I have a keyword, which is gate code 1. So I put a little sign on my open house sign. I put it right there by the pad. And it says for gate code, text gate code 1 to 59559. And the texting service has an automatic response, and it just responds right back to it. Does 2 things. You capture their phone number, and you also don't piss off the neighbors, because I used to do it where I put the code right on the thing, and they call me.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, why are you putting the code out there? I'm like, bro, sorry.
Never getting a listing from anybody that does it.
Right.
So it protects the code, plus you capture their information.
What was that called? Quickly?
Quickly. KWKLY.
Buy
So
stock in that right now.
I can tell you what not to do. Don't put your car in the sensor, because if you don't put it in the right place, it will still close on your car, which happened to me a few months ago. That's what I was told to do. I was like, it damaged my car too.
Oh my God.
Yes, it did.
What else? What other questions? What other questions?
I had one too, no, I forgot it. Oh, how do you feel, this is sort of personal, how do you feel about digital login versus for the reason of when they do digital sign-in, you can get their consent to contact them. Versus written, they're like, I didn't tell you could call me.
You gave me your
right?
phone number.
Yeah,
No, you gave me your phone number. We're done.
Maybe.
I personally like
But
this.
for all the electronic communication and all of that, like, they're gonna get blown up, right? Like, you should get their consent.
I personally like to sign them in myself, whether it's sign in or digital. And that's pretty easy. It's just, hey, Aaron, or hey, my name's DaRosa. You are? Aaron, awesome. Come on in, let me get you some information. And I just pull up my computer. I'm like, hey, let's get you signed in. And I just instruct them the whole way. Instead of saying, hey, can I get you to sign in? No. Like, I found that if you, this is the way,
Yeah.
99% of people will not resist you. So I say, hey, let's get you signed in. What's your last name, Aaron? Cool. What's the best phone number to contact you at? Cool.
You just
And your
plug it in
email?
for them right there.
So you're the agent that won't let them in if they don't sign in.
No, I kick people out.
I mean, with COVID right now, it's great.
COVID was
thing
great.
to do.
Yeah, COVID was
I mean,
awesome.
people are still scared now, so you can still use it now.
Yeah.
Just say, in case something happens, I need your contact information.
Or,
Yeah.
or because you're wearing a mask.
Or you can scare people. Hey, you haven't heard of COVID 3 yet?
Yeah.
It's like just came out. I need you to sign in to make sure you do not get tracked.
What I like to say is, hey, I need to let the sellers know I'm doing my job. Can you sign in, please? Kind of make a
That's
little
a
joke
good-
about it, you know?
Yeah, I need to
Especially if they're neighbors and they're like, oh, this guy's doing his job.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. I've never heard that one. I like to
I like
let
that
the
too.
seller know that I'm doing my job. I'm actually here. Could you sign me a favor? Let
Our
me
sellers want to know everybody that came through their house.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it too, how many cases have you seen? We're in a really rough economy. People are staking out open houses and they're stealing shit now, right?
That's always been mine. I'm like, hey, I'm here alone. I got a lot of people coming in and out of this house. I need you to sign in. If you're not willing to sign in, I'm sorry, you'll have to come back another day with a real estate agent.
You know what's with the other thing you can do is I just make it real simple. I have a big green sign laminated, and I said for safety and security reasons, seller asks that everyone sign in and provide their contact information. Thanks for your cooperation, smiley face, and join the tour. And I put it right on the door before anybody walks in. And then they
They can decide where.
and then I've had people walk away. I'm like, cool,
Yeah.
right? Probably we're gonna waste my time anyway.
They were probably a waste of time, or they had nefarious.
The other thing is like there's so many different ways too, right? I hear some agents that say, well, I like to take the lower key, less pressure. One of the best, the most incredible women that agents that I know, who's now owns her own coaching company, her name is Debbie DeGroat. She used to not have.
She's awesome.
You've seen Debbie?
I met her in person too.
She's phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
She's actually my personal coach.
Oh, yeah?
Business coach. Yeah. She's freaking amazing. She did her beginning years way back when she sold in SoCal. I think she talks about 150 transactions she did in a year.
Something like that.
Yeah, on her own. And what she did was she didn't do the make them sign in. She literally says, and this is a little tip she told me that I haven't used it yet. I'm gonna try this. She would sit there. She'd see them coming up. She'd grab her clipboard or whatever she was working on, and she'd pretend she was writing something down when they would come in. They'd open the door, and she'd go, oh, hey, make yourself at home. That one little line, she said, really set an ease.
Mm-hmm.
And then she would actually do the thing. Let me make sure there's a couple things I want to make sure you don't miss. Come with me, right? And then she would show them, she'd build the rapport, and then she would close them, and like you said, ask for the business. you gotta make sure you ask for the business, because that's the craziest thing I've ever heard is when, and a lot of people don't do it because they don't want to jeopardize the quote relationship they've built with the people coming in. Challenge with that is there's really no relationship built yet, especially if they just don't even want to meet with you, right? I mean, go for the close. If someone's offended that I asked to meet with them because I want to help them, then I probably don't want to work with them. So speaking of closes, what's the close that you do? That's actually one thing I'd say in preparation is a huge piece, is know your buyer profile for whatever open house you're doing. Know your buyer profile. I never even thought about that until I was coaching with one of our partners just today. And I said, she said, because I'm just so used to it, I can handle anything, right? But she's like, yeah, the people at Bertella, which is an $889,000 house, versus Sutter's School, which is $580. She's like, they were asking a lot different questions. They were different people. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So what would you want to know if you're doing a higher end home? Probably you want to have conversations. You probably want to, like I was like, you got to offer value. We're always offering value. So if I'm having a conversation with someone and they're considering buying, and they're usually going to be upsizing at that point, I'm going to ask them, hey, are you planning to sell or rent your property that you currently own? Mm-hmm. Would it be of value if I provided you rental comps so you can make that decision to decide which makes sense for you? Because you probably have a really low rate on that, right? Yeah, cool. So having different conversations versus and then that transitions into your closing, right? Hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we get together? Let's meet. We'll go through the market together. I'll share with you and go through the rental comps with you so you can make that decision. In addition, we'll deep dive and figure out what is the best home that you're looking for. Do afternoons or evenings work better? Versus, hey, it sounds like getting to Fair Oaks and getting closer to your family, getting into a home that you actually own is a pretty important decision. Why don't we do this? Let's go through the market. I'll take you through the process from financing options to close and post-close, and we'll also look at what you're looking for. Do afternoons or evenings work better, right? Those are two different closes because the value you're providing is going to be for an experienced home buyer, someone that may need different information than someone who's a first-time home buyer. You're not going to do the same
The first timer, they're afraid of being sold, so they're always like guard up. I don't want to, even if they should. And then the higher end, they want the detail.
It's all in the words you choose. It's so interesting in the words you choose, like when you're asking for the appointment. Like my thing, I never talk about an appointment. It's always a conversation. And I always say this at the end of them. I say, hey, why don't we get together? Let's have a conversation. We'll go through this, and this. And if it makes sense to move the conversation forward, we can. And if not, at least you have some good information to make a really great decision for you and your family. Does afternoons or evenings work better for you?
Yeah, I like that. I use that a lot. And if it makes sense to move forward, we will. And if it doesn't, then at least you're walking away a more informed purchaser, more informed seller.
Mm-hmm. The words we use today especially is so important. It's so important. It was important, but it didn't matter because it was so easy like 2 years ago, right? Like no one was going to say no here. Like I pay less than what I rent for and own? Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Now let's see if it makes sense. If it doesn't, that's okay. We'll wait. But let's at least look at it. So, any other questions? My sponsor.
Thank you,
What?
Alexandra.
Good question.
Yeah, go for it.
Becca?
We got food.
What, how do you handle the neighbor that won't leave? Or the neighbor that comes in and says, oh man, I remember this house, it's so crappy, blah, blah, blah. Or the
I'll
neighbor
give you
is
my
crappy.
answer is I never do an open house alone. I've got a partner that's going to step in and distract him if he sees what's going on, or I'm going to be able to have somebody to catch all the people that are trying to sneak out while I'm preoccupied. So that's the short. You just have a partner there.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yes.
But how do you?
You don't. You got someone else to do it, and then you sort of
I usually.
walk outside while you're talking, and then, yeah,
That's
so what are you up
I
to the rest of the
do all
day?
I do all my open houses alone, so that's where it really, I mean.
That's what I do, and I kind of walk them out.
Yeah.
And I lead the
Yeah.
conversation, but I'm just curious, what other ways do you?
Yeah.
I would say, I just like being straight up with people. And I'm just like, hey, you know what? I've really enjoyed getting to meet you and know you. I do have a lot of people that are coming in, and because the seller, has hired me to do this open house, I want to make sure I'm attentive. I'd love to continue the conversation. I'm done here at 4. If you want, I can come by your house. Say what's up.
That's what I do too.
Bond.
I try to set an appointment.
Give you
and say,
100% of my attention.
It's so hard for me to give you 100% of my attention right now because I'm working for your neighbor.
Yep.
What I would love to do is get your contact information. I can follow up with you after this, or I'll come by after the open house and we can talk all about it. Sounds like you want to move, right? Especially if they're negative. Especially, I'm like, man, it sounds like you need to get out of this neighborhood. Like,
Let me help you.
yeah, let me help you.
You can end it with a joke, but we can talk about which neighbors you want me to help move, right? I use that when I'm prospecting the whole time. Like when they say no, I'm like, okay, well, let me ask you this: any neighbors that you want me to get out of the neighborhood? Instant report.
Yeah, sir.
Instant report.
That is good.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I'm a bigger guy, so I always try to use humor,
sure.
kind of make people comfortable.
Just say, have you ever seen WWE? Some body slander. That's how it's
Yeah,
That's good.
Let me get my,
I love it. Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Great job, dude.
Thank you.